If you've ever played or even heard of Fallout, you probably immediately recognize this symbol of the Vault Boy with a cherry smile on his face and a thumbs up. What on the surface looks like just a happy advertisement for Vault Tech, though, may be hiding a much more sinister undertone. Almost a decade ago, a Reddit thread was made that postulated that the Vault Boy in this picture isn't actually happy, but instead putting his thumbs up to check for a nuclear blast. You see, in this Reddit thread, it is claimed that the US government back during the Cold War era would suggest citizens in the event of a nuclear blast put their thumbs up in front of themselves and squint one eye, and if their thumb covered the entire blast, then they were far enough away to be safe from radiation. So it looks like that's what's happening with the Vault Boy, right? Well, maybe not so much. You see, this theory is one of the most popular in all of Fallout. But as pointed out by YouTuber Father Eli Jackal, this is most likely not the case. Brian Fargo, one of the original creators of Fallout, and T. Ray Isaac, the man behind the Vault Boy design, have both independently confirmed on Twitter that the symbol is just meant to be a happy Vault Boy, used for propaganda for Vault Tech. And not just this, but even with a small amount of research, it becomes obvious that this thumb idea is false. During the Cold War, the US government advocated duck and cover, not sticking your thumb in the air. But ironically, neither of these would help you very much if nukes actually started dropping. Either way though, one of the most beloved theories in all of Fallout is most likely nothing but a scam thousands of Redditors fell for years ago. Who would have guessed? One of the most common animals you can find in Fallout 4 and 76, well, at least common for animals that aren't trying to kill you, that is cats. This doesn't sound weird on the surface, but it gets a lot more interesting when you realize that there are literally zero, not even one cat in any other Fallout games or spin-offs. You see, cats in the Fallout universe, at least as proposed by Mr. House in New Vegas, went extinct after the bombs fell. So how are there suddenly so many in recent times? One theory postulated that there may have actually been a cat vault. Shortly before the player in Fallout 4 exits their vault, the cats were released from their own hidden metropolis to repopulate the world with the objectively worse version of a dog. The problem with this, though, is that we also see tons of cats in Fallout 76, and that game takes place only 25 years after the Great War, when all the bombs originally fell. Still though, maybe there were multiple cat vaults, and some even crazier theories suggest that some of the Vault Tech vaults may have experimented on the cats by ghoulifying them, something we'll touch more on later in this series. Regardless of the real story though, something behind the scenes is happening with cats in the Fallout universe, and there has to be a reason these pesky felines are causing so much drama. One of my personal favorite vaults in the entire Fallout franchise is Vault 108, affectionately known as the Gary Vault. Located in the wilderness of Fallout 3 lies a mysterious door hidden behind a large rock formation. When you first enter, you find a dead body on the ground, and even more interestingly, a vault door left completely wide open. As you step inside, you are met with a scene of horror. Blood marks cover the walls, furniture is thrown around, and the generators powering the vault are completely offline. You find dead Wastelander bodies of those trying to loot the facility all over. But the true horror comes when you find the body labeled Gary 42, after just being attacked by an extremely similar looking person, named Gary 33. As you make your way deeper into the vault, you slowly uncover that it is littered with an army of clones of this one man, Gary, all hilariously shouting at you the entire time.
Gary!
And if you have the courage to go even deeper into this twisted vault, you eventually uncover that a scientist was performing experiments of cloning, and even find a sectioned off female dorm blocked by tons of cabinets, suggesting that at one point they had barricaded themselves inside, presumably to protect themselves from men who can't stop shouting their name. The true intrigue though comes if you go to the Pentagon in Fallout 3. because it's here we can open top secret terminal information on multiple vaults, including Vault 108. The vault was originally set to perform experiments in cloning over a span of 30 years, but the generators were only spec'd for 20. We can find multiple reports of complaints from the vault residents, but all were shot down by the vault tech higher-ups. On top of this, the original overseer, which for those of you who don't know is essentially the leader of any vault, was known to have cancer, and we can find discussions estimating his death after 3 years, followed up by a journal entry stating, "These two events should combine to allow a proper catalyst that allows this project to continue as planned." So something was going on in this vault that most people living there weren't aware of, and it leads us to even more questions than it answers. What were these cloning experiments for? How did so many clones survive for so long? Were the experiments to find immortality? And why are there female dorms but no male dorms? Could it be, as YouTuber Oxhorn postulates, that the true experiment of the vault was putting a large group of females all with one cloned male to see what happens? Either way, it's clear that at some point the Gary clones started to become more and more aggressive, and with time eventually overtook the vault, which coincidentally we see in the Pentagon logs stocked with 3 times the normal amount of munitions. So maybe when the generators turned off, the Garys all grabbed the guns and started screaming Gary while massacring the entire vault and its inhabitants. A horrifying idea to think about. Another little known fact that many Fallout fans might not know about Fallout 4, which takes place in Boston, was that actually at one point it was supposed to take place in New York instead, what many players consider to be the holy grail for a Fallout location. Emil, previously a lead writer at Bethesda and now the lead designer on Starfield, spoke to NoClip in a documentary and briefly mentioned that at one point Fallout 4 had a short design document that had the game taking place in New York, with the only similarity being Nick Valentine being involved. We hear about New York multiple times throughout the Fallout franchise, and while it is one of the first places that the bombs dropped, we also know some Brotherhood of Steel members have traveled through the area and seen mutants in skyscrapers, so there is still life. On top of this, the verticality and political intrigue from Fallout lore make this a perfect location for a future game. Being close to the Niagara Falls and Canada to the north would set the stage for some non-urban environments as well. And in the Fallout lore, Canada is annexed by the United States in the Resource Wars, so political intrigue would be abound. There's a reason every Fallout player wants to see the universe's take on New York. And while Fallout 4's iteration was likely scrapped due to budget and tech constraints, Fallout 5 has a very good chance of making this dream a reality. Everyone's favorite canine companion from Fallout 4, Dogmeat, is a super lovable character. He helps you find loot, he bites every enemy in your path, and most importantly, he's a good boy. But some Fallout fans have started to wonder if Dogmeat is even a real dog. You see, originally we find him outside the Red Rocket gas station at the very start of the game. And the fact that he is so well trained and immediately obedient and takes a liking to you is very weird. And as you play through more of the game, you start to notice more interesting oddities, like the fact that he takes no radiation damage. Almost every other animal in the game has become mutated from radiation poisoning, and other dogs that we meet in the game, like Rex, are, well, different. But Dogmeat seems to be an excellent fighter, perfectly trained, immune to radiation and plasma gunfire, and also one of the only dogs in the whole game that looks this pristine. Could it be that Dogmeat was actually sent from the Institute to guide you on your path to a secret hidden location? Maybe Dogmeat is actually a synth robot posing as man's best friend, all in a ploy to bring you to Sean at the Institute. But even if he is a conniving robot, he's still the cutest companion in all of Fallout. Scattered all across the wasteland in Fallout 4 are fluffy little teddy bears, all in different interesting and sometimes comical positions. It's an obvious way for Bethesda to have some fun environmental storytelling with the players, but what if these cute and cuddly little stuffed animals had a lot more to hide? We know that throughout playing Fallout 4, sometimes you are being watched by certain characters and entities working for the Institute. But what if the biggest one of these was actually right under our nose the whole time? Many of these teddy bears in the world are in very high value locations, often off to the side, simply staring into the abyss. But what if these bears were actually cameras set up by the Institute to track not only you, but all the activity in the wasteland? It would perfectly fit the character of the organization, and also adds an extremely creepy undertone every time you go into a new building and see one of these guys, now wondering if you are constantly being watched.